Chapter 8. Leaving camp and getting a move on. Percy shouldered his full bag, following the others to the border. He had recognized the pack he had initially brought, pulled out some books and photos, and replaced them with clothes and Ziploc bags for Ambrosia Squares. Katie had also passed him a bag of strawberries, and the camp store had loaned him $100 and 20 gold drachmas. He'd also taken the money pouch his dad had left on his bedside table. It bequeathed him an amount of drachma that shouldn't logically fit in such a small bag and, funnily enough, a credit card. An expensive credit card, with little silver fish swimming across it. His mom would despise even the look of it, but resources were resources. There had also been a small bronze dagger with a trident-shaped end attached to a wrist sheath, perfectly sized for his forearm. The handle was wrapped, but the center of the trident held a singular pearl. At least he knew his dad was taking the quest seriously. Chiron gave both him and Annabeth a canteen full of nectar. She had her Yankees cap and backpack full of more supplies, and her bronze knife. Grover had on his fake feet and pants to pass as human, and he carried a set of reed pipes. He also had a backpack, but the rattle it made let Percy know they'd find little to help them in a pinch. They met Chiron by Talia's tree. Next to him stood the surfer dude Percy had only seen around. Grover explained that he was the camp's head of security. To Percy, his body was covered in a light fog, and several eyes peered out from all different angles. He looked like a biblically accurate angel, and he smelled like lilies and olives. "This is Argus," Chiron introduced. "He will drive you into the city and, keep an eye on things." The eye on Argus's forehead blinked. The wind carried some strawberries, and Luke came running up the hill, carrying a pair of beaten-up baseball shoes. "Hey," he panted. "Glad I caught you." The shoes reeked. Annabeth blushed the way she always did when Luke was around. "Just wanted to say good luck," Luke said. "And I thought, maybe you could use these?" Like heck he ever would. His eyes wandered over them, but thankfully nobody noticed. He was barely able to grab them without choking. Maya," Luke said, looking pleased. White birds' wings sprouted out from the heels. Not even the sweet smell of strawberries could hide the stench. The shoes flapped around on the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. "Awesome!" Grover said. Luke smiled. "Those served me well when I was on my quest. Gift from Dad. Of course, I don't use them much these days." His expression turned sad. Percy worked through the choke in his throat and smiled. "Thanks. I appreciate it." "Listen, Percy," Luke looked uncomfortable. "A lot of hopes are riding on you, so just kill some monsters for me, okay?" Percy nodded, and they shook hands. Luke patted Grover's head, then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, who looked like she might pass out. She quickly rushed to the car. He waited until Luke was gone to hand the shoes to Grover. His eyes lit up in response. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Definitely," Percy assured. Actually, he was close to begging. His friend took them and laced them over his fake feet, eagerly taking to the air. "Practice!" Chiron called after the flying goat. Or falling, more like. "You just need practice." "Ah!" Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawnmower, heading towards the van where Annabeth had already gotten in. She poked her head out and looked down where Grover had fallen, looking unimpressed. Before Percy could follow, Chiron caught him by the arm. "I should have trained you better, Percy," he said. "If only I had more time." Hercules, Jason, they all got more training. Percy was reminded how old Chiron was, how many kids he must have trained and sent off to die. He was sure it never got any easier. I can't let you get away without this. He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to him. It looked like an ordinary disposable ballpoint pen, but it smelled like more. He recognized it. That's a gift from your father. I kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. Percy looked from it to the centaur curiously. For some reason, it felt like Chiron was talking about something else, something bigger. Thank you, Percy said, for everything. The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into, Chiron told him. But his eyes said he was flashing through it regardless. Its name is Riptide. Chiron nodded. Use it only for emergencies, he said, and only against monsters. No hero should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword won't harm them in any case. It's made of celestial bronze, formed by the Cyclopses, tempered in the heat of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from the underworld, but the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Good to know. One last thing about the sword. You cannot lose it. It's enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket, though it might take a few moments. What if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword? Is there something that hides it? Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist? Yes, whenever a divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the visions of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkably, really, the lengths of which humans will go to fit things into their visions of reality. That's what his mom must have meant then, about seeing what he sees. They had never been able to discuss it fully. They waved a final goodbye, and Percy looked back only once when he climbed into the car to see Chiron at his full height, holding his bow high in salute. Argus drove them all the way to the Greyhound station on the Upper East Side. Percy spent the time wheedling more out of Annabeth, poking fun about olives versus saltwater spring for good health, until she faced her body towards the window and ignored him. The head of security helped them unload their bags and buy bus tickets before he drove away, the smell of lilies and olives disappearing with him. They had to wait a bit before the bus arrived and spent the time playing hacky sack until Grover got a bit too hungry and took a big bite out of the apple they'd used. Finally, the bus arrived. As they boarded, Grover started looking around, sniffing purposefully. Pomegranates and dust, Percy agreed, yanking the strider closer. Annabeth, in front of them, turned her head to show she was listening. We're being followed. Kindly ones. Her eyes darted around, but she didn't face them. Body relaxed. She nodded. Keep an eye out, she murmured. And let's not stow our bags. They found seating together in the back. Percy took the window and slouched down. Annabeth took the seat across the aisle, her cap bouncing against her thigh. There, he finally murmured. Whoever just got on board. Annabeth looked and hissed, ducking down. Grover had gotten out a piece of tin to nibble on. The old ladies sat in the front row, the two on the aisle across their legs over the walkway, making an X. It was casual enough, but it sent a clear message. Nobody leaves. The bus pulled out of the station and headed through the slick streets of Manhattan. They kept their voices low as they tried to decide what to do. No way off, Percy said softly after they established the lack of an emergency exit in the back. We stay put and let them come to us. Annabeth didn't look too happy, but it was the only thing they could do. They hit the Lincoln Tunnel, and the bus went dark except for the running lights down the aisle. It was eerily quiet without the sound of rain. Mrs. Dodds got up and announced her intention to use the bathroom, her sisters following. "Okay," Annabeth breathed. "Sooner rather than later." "I've got it. Percy, take my hat. Turn invisible and go up the aisle. Let them pass you. Maybe you can get to the front and get away." He took it. "I'll sneak to the front," he whispered, "but I'm not leaving either of you. I'll push the emergency brake button or something, so watch your footing." He pulled the cap on and disappeared, carefully climbing over Grover and moving a few rows up. The little old ladies, the Furies, passed him without notice. He made it to the front, peering over the driver for the emergency stop button. Hideous wailing from the back row pierced through the silence. The old ladies had shed their disguises. Their handbags had turned into fiery whips. They hissed over at Annabeth. "Where is it? Where?" The other people on the bus were screaming, cowering in their seats. They saw something. He could only guess what. "Not here!" Annabeth yelled. "Get away!" The Furies raised their whips. Percy pushed the button. The brakes squealed in protest. Everyone launched forward by the sudden forced stop. Something most definitely broke, as a loud, grinding mechanical sound tore through the cabin. The Furies tripped over one another, away from Annabeth and Grover. The bus careened out of the Lincoln Tunnel and back into the rainstorm. The driver thought fast, directing the squealing bus through an exit. They creaked to a stop, woods to their left, the Hudson River to the right. The doors flew open, and the driver was the first one out, the passengers yelling as they stampeded after him. Annabeth had taken advantage of the chaos and struck one of the Furies down. One of Grover's tin cans had whacked another in the head, allowing the girl to finish it off before it could collect itself. Percy rushed Mrs. Dodds from behind with his small dagger, finishing the Fury off for the second time. Hopefully there weren't to be a third, but he wouldn't be surprised if there were. "Out!" Percy cried when the air electrified, ozone thickening. Annabeth seemed to sense it too. "Get off the bus!" They rushed off, pushing past a few tourists with their heads down. Boom! The windows of the bus exploded as the passengers ran for cover. Lightning shredded a huge crater in the road. They plunged into the woods in the rain and didn't stop until they were well and truly lost. "Did you hear what they said?" Percy asked when they had caught their breath. "Where is it?" "Not him." Annabeth looked thoughtful. They slowed their pace, following along the Hudson River in all its muddy glory. The glow of New York City behind them made it look like a beacon they were walking away from. Percy could almost convince himself they'd just gone hiking. "They could have meant the lightning bolt," she said. "Just as a general, where did you hide it? But why would Uncle H be sending his creatures to help Uncle Z find his lightning bolt if he, like Chiron said, had it in hand?" They stared at each other in thought, thinking the same. "What are you guys saying?" Grover asked nervously. "It might be nothing," Annabeth picked up. "We might just be overthinking it, or something else other than the Master Bolt was stolen," Percy finished grimly. "And they think I have it too, another god's signature weapon, belonging to none other than Uncle H himself." Grover bleated pitifully. He ended up taking the lead, tracking down an old stair path west so they had a direction to follow. "Thankfully, we still have our bags." Annabeth had pulled a paper map out of hers. Together they tracked where they most likely ended up, following behind Grover. "We can't walk the rest of the way, too far and not enough time. But if we can find a train station or another bus station, I can try my credit card." "Best plan we have so far," Annabeth agreed. "Do you smell that?" Yes. It smelled like food, like burgers and something else. The sea and olives and scales. Percy's eyes narrowed as they stepped out of the woods. Across the way was a building with a neon sign and lots of statues. He didn't bother trying to squint out the words, something about an Auntie M's. It was eerily quiet, not a single soul along the road. I don't think we should go in there, Grover said nervously, eyeing the place. Snack bar, Annabeth said over him, and maybe some directions. Grover looked at him beseechingly. Percy grinned at him in response. I want to know what's making that smell, he said, patting Grover on the shoulder and following Annabeth. Friend or foe, you think? Maybe a friend, if they played it right. The statues in the front garden were off-putting, extremely so. Almost all of them had expressions of terror carved delicately on their faces. There were statues of all shapes and sizes, in all sorts of different poses. Annabeth was starting to get nervous. Percy pushed past them and knocked on the door, taking center as someone approached from the other side. Grover had a vice grip on Percy's arm, and Annabeth had grabbed the bottom of his sweater. The door opened, and Percy smiled, eyes down. Hello, ma'am. Would you be able to tell us where the nearest train station is?